Welcome to the Fogwood Files, where fog lingers among the trees and the forest holds its secrets close. The Canadian Maritimes are a land of silence and shadow, where pasts dissolve into mist and voices echo without a source. Here, beneath the canopy of pines, people have witnessed things they cannot explain. Their words remain as fragments of a larger mystery, stories carried through the woods like whispers in the dark. Tonight, we open one of those accounts and step deeper into the ledger of the strange.
Case File 010, Skinwalker Encounter. Date of encounter, October 2015. Location, Kings County, PEI. Report submitted, October 2016.
I'm writing this report because I don't want anyone saying later that there were no warnings. Folks around here don't talk about things unless they have to, and most won't speak plain even when they do. But I've lived on this farm going on 58 years, and I've seen enough to say something is walking these fields that has no business being here. Whether you call it a skinwalker, a mimic, a witch, or just that thing in the dark, I don't much care. All I know is it's real, it's patient, and it's learning. My name doesn't matter. My farm sits about a mile outside a village you'd only know if you've hauled potatoes or grew up in Kings County. Acres of open red earth stretch in every direction, flat enough to see headlights coming 10 minutes before they arrive. Flat enough that you'd swear that nothing would sneak up on you. That used to be a comfort. Lately it feels like a lie. It's early fall as I wrote this. Leaves are turning muddy golden orange, dust kicking up from the last harvest rows. The nights are cool enough that frost hangs on the grass till mid-morning. The potato trucks have mostly come and gone, and everything on the farm is in that in-between state. Too late for planting, too early for snow. The kind of season where things would be settling down. The fields, they look the same as always. I walk them every morning before sunup, just to make sure nothing's torn up the fence or gotten into the feed shed. We don't have woods around us, not like some places. Just open rows divided by drainage ditches and the occasional dead tree that marks some boundary long forgotten. You can stand dead center of the north field and see sky in all four directions. That kind of visibility used to make me feel safe. Lately, though, I've realized wide open doesn't mean unoccupied. The quiet's been different. Anyone who works land knows there's silence, and there's wrong silence. This one's wrong. No wind, no crows, no crickets. Even the dog won't bark at night anymore. So I'm writing this down. Not for sympathy, not for attention, just so it's recorded. There's something walking the fields of PEI that wears familiar faces. And if you answer when it calls, you won't like how it answers back. My days haven't changed much in 30 years. Up before dawn, coffee thick enough to stand a spoon in, boots on before my bones are even fully awake, walk the fields, check the fences, feed the dog. I've done it so long my body could probably finish the morning routine without me. Early fall's usually the easiest stretch of the year. No planting to stress over, no blight to monitor, just cleaning equipment, patching what needs patching, stacking what needs stacking. The kind of steady work that keeps a man sane. It started small, a gate left open when I knew I had shut it. A rake leaning against the barn at a different angle than I'd left it. Tools going missing and then showing up somewhere they had no reason to be. I blamed myself at first. Getting older, maybe I'd forgotten. But the feeling that someone or something was playing house when I wasn't looking started digging its teeth into me. A farm is supposed to be predictably messy. Things don't organize themselves neatly overnight. Then, the animals started acting off. I've got a small run of beef cattle grazing in the south field, and they've always been skittish at night, but lately, they've refused to spread out. They sleep pressed against the fence, huddled like children waiting for their mother. They keep their heads pointed toward the field even when I approach from behind. Whatever they're watching, it's out there, and they know better than to turn their backs on it. The worst was the chickens. I've kept birds since I was a boy. Chickens don't think much, but they know things. They feel weather coming, foxes hunting, storms rolling. Their rooster shed sits a few dozen paces from the main house. One night, around 1 or 2 in the morning, they went dead quiet. Chickens aren't quiet at night. Not all at once. There's always a sleepy cluck, a shuffle of wings, something. But this was pure, unnatural stillness, like someone had pressed pause on them. Then, after maybe about 10 seconds of that silence, they all erupted at once, screaming. Not squawking, screaming. Feathers slamming against wood, heads banging the wire mesh, the whole shed shaking like someone had thrown it. I ran out with the spotlight and my rifle. I was expecting to see a coyote or a fox tearing through, but when I got there, nothing had breached. The birds were pancaked against the back wall like they were trying to escape something that was inside with them. I opened the latch to calm them, and they wouldn't even come near me. They looked past me, out into the field. I followed their gaze. There was nothing. Just open rows and a faint mist rising. Nothing at all to be afraid of, except I was. I didn't grow up in a house that believed in monsters. My father was a churchman, my mother a practical woman. When something went wrong, it was weather or bad luck or laziness. You broke a fence post, you fix it. You heard a voice in the wind, you ignore it. Ghosts were for people who didn't have enough real work to keep them busy. So no, I wasn't raised on tales of skinwalkers or mimics or whatever name you want to give this thing. But that doesn't mean the island itself didn't have its share of talk. Old Acadian families had one name for it. Micmac folks had another. Even some of the old Irish settlers had their own warnings disguised as jokes. Never whistle at night. Never answer when someone calls your name from far off unless you see their lips move. Never follow a familiar voice into the fields after sundown, because if they needed you, they'd come to the house. When I was a boy, I thought the rules were just ways to stop kids from getting lost in the dark. Simple safety measures dressed up as superstition. But I remember one conversation with an older Micmac hand who helped with the harvest when I was maybe 16. He was a quiet man named Lawrence, hardly spoke unless spoken to. I asked him once why he always stopped working right before dusk, no matter how far we were from done. He just said, "Land changes at night. Some things walk then that don't walk by day. You don't want them thinking you're walking too." I laughed like any stupid young man would, told him I wasn't afraid of ghost stories. He didn't argue. He just looked at me, long, flat, patient, and said, "Doesn't matter if you're afraid. Just matters if they see you." That sentence stuck with me, though I didn't understand it. Not till now. There's another story I remembered recently. When I was maybe 10, there was talk in town of a farm dog that went missing. Tracks were found leading straight out into a flat field, then stopping. No struggle, no drag marks, just gone. The farmer swore he heard it barking from the ditch at night for weeks after. even though it was gone. Then one night he heard his own voice calling the dog by name. Now back then I thought that was just gossip. Now, I'm starting to think all those old sayings weren't warnings. They were instructions. The first time I heard it clear, I was out by the pump house fixing a loose valve. It was late evening, sun already dropped low enough to turn the whole field copper. I was tightening the last bolt when I heard someone call my name from across the rows. Sounded like my cousin Wayne. Same gravelly pitch, same lazy drawl he gets when he hasn't bothered to come all the way over and wants me to meet him halfway. Thing is, Wayne lives 40 minutes down the highway and he hadn't been by in over a week. I stood up and squinted across the field. Nothing but low furrows and flickering stalks. No truck, no figure, no tracks, but the voice came again. Now here's the thing. Every instinct told me to answer. That's the trap of a familiar voice. It doesn't just call you, it expects you. I had half a mind to shout back before something inside me, something older than thinking, grabbed hold and stopped me cold. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just listened. After maybe 5 seconds, the voice called again, but wrong this time. Like someone trying to imitate Wayne without quite understanding how words sit in a throat. I ducked low behind the pump house wall and waited. My heart was kicking, but my brain was dead calm. I don't know why, but I knew. Don't look. Don't answer. Don't let it know where you are. The voice kept calling from different spots. First left ditch, then right, then behind me, then so close I swear I felt breath against my ear, but I didn't move. Didn't even breathe deep, just stayed crouched there. Then silence. The quiet was worse than the voice. I lifted my head just an inch above the wall to take a slow look. And that's when I saw it. Far across the rows, just before dusk swallowed the ground, a shape standing upright. It looked like a man, but too long. Too thin in the wrong places, like someone had stretched him from the inside and the skin barely kept up. I couldn't see its face. I didn't need to. I backed away step by step, careful not to turn my back. I made it to the house and locked every door. Next morning, I found footprints in the dirt. Bare, human-looking, except for one thing. They only came one way. Prints leading in. No prints leading out. After that night, I carried my rifle everywhere. Not because I believed I'd get the chance to use it, but more because it felt wrong not to have steel and powder between me and that open dark. But I knew in my bones that whatever was prowling those rows didn't give a damn about bullets. Guns help against things with organs. This thing felt older than flesh. Days went by quietly, like nothing had happened. That almost bothered me. The calm wasn't peaceful, it was staged, like a wolf freezing in tall grass, waiting for you to forget it's there. The animals were uneasy again, but they'd stopped sounding alarms. Instead, they acted like prisoners, eyes always on the horizon, always braced. The next real event came 5 nights later. I was inside, sitting at the kitchen table, peeling apples for a pie. The radio was on low. My dog was lying by the door, head on his paws, awake but pretending not to be. Then I heard my own voice outside the back window. "You left the shed open. I froze. I knew I hadn't spoken. I hadn't moved my lips, but the tone, the cadence was perfect. It sounded exactly like I did when muttering to myself while working. The dog's ears shot up. He didn't bark. He just whined and crawled backward until he was under the table. The voice came again, louder now. You left the shed open. Better close it. It wasn't asking. It was suggesting. Like a parent telling a child what they should do next. Slowly, I stood and stepped by the window. I didn't look directly out. I shifted the curtain just enough to catch the yard in the corner of the glass. I saw me, standing in the yard. Same height, same clothes, same hat. Except, not right. It was too rigid, too straight, like it was wearing human instead of being it. Like it knew how to look like me, but didn't quite get how to stand like me. It turned its head, not smoothly like a person, but in one stiff, mechanical motion. Then it smiled. Not widely, not menacingly, just a polite, closed-mouthed smile like a man greeting a neighbor at church. Then, my voice came out of it. Come outside! I didn't move. Its smile faded, the head tilted. Then it spoke again, but this time it got the voice wrong. Too high, too low, like two recordings overlapped. Come outside. It didn't shout, it just layered voices over each other like it was flipping through options or something. I reached for the rifle, lifted it slowly, aimed through the glass. Not to shoot, just to show it that I could. The thing stared another 3 seconds, then it simply dropped. Straight down, like someone had cut the strings on a puppet. It vanished below the window line. I didn't see it leave. I didn't hear footsteps. Didn't hear grass, but I knew it was gone, waiting for a better chance. After that night, something settled in my mind. Not comfort, but clarity. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't wild. It wasn't killing at random or lunging without thought. It wasn't an animal. It was deliberate, calculated, testing. And tests meant rules. I started piecing them together like a farmer figuring out drainage by where the water pools. I didn't discover them all at once, just little realizations, each one heavier than the last. Rule 1. It wanted an invite. That much was clear. It mimicked voices not to scare, to draw. Every word it spoke was phrased like instruction. Come outside. Help me. Look here. It never forced, it asked. Rule 2. It didn't like being watched directly. The time I stared at it through the window, it didn't move. It stood frozen like a deer in headlights. Not afraid, just waiting. But the second I blinked, it shifted. That thing didn't want to be seen changing. It didn't care if I knew it existed. It cared if I watched it becoming. Rule 3. It couldn't or wouldn't cross thresholds. Not once did it touch the house. It stayed 4 feet out, pacing like a dog waiting for a scrap. It could mimic my body like a photograph, but wouldn't so much as set foot on my porch. I tested it. I left a glove out overnight on the step. Next morning, it was gone, but the wood beneath it was untouched. It reached for what belonged to me, but it wouldn't step where I ruled. That rule gave me the only peace I've had since this began. So inside is safe, outside is not. Simple as that. Rule 4. It's learning faster than I am. The first time it spoke, it copied sentence structure like a child learning new language. Last night, it sang. Not a full song, just half a line of a hymn my mother used to hum while hanging laundry. Except she passed 10 years ago. And no living soul knew that melody except me. It sang it perfectly. Not just the notes, but her voice. That shook me worse than seeing its face, because that meant it wasn't just imitating sounds. It was collecting them, studying them, becoming fluent. Which leads to the final rule, the one I hate the most because I can't prove it, but I feel it like nails under my skin. Rule 5. It doesn't just want to come inside the house. It wants to be me, to walk my walk, to own my name, to stop pretending and start replacing. The night it finally pushed its luck was colder than usual. Frost came early, spreading silver across the ground like salt. The kind of night where sound carries twice as far and every footstep echoes like it's following you. I had made it a habit to stay inside after dusk, no matter what noise I heard. But habits break when livestock's involved. That night, one of the cattle started bawling loud enough to rattle the kitchen windows. It wasn't normal panic, it was terror. Pure animal terror, like it had already seen its death walking toward it. I told myself I wouldn't go out. Told myself it was testing me, baiting me. Then I heard something speak. Not words, just sound. Mimicking the cattle's cry, pitch for pitch, but off by just enough to make my hair stand on end. Like someone trying to laugh and scream at the same time. I grabbed the rifle and stepped onto the porch. Just the porch. That was as far as I was willing to go. The moonlight was bright, full and pale, lighting up the entire field like stage lighting. I could see the cattle pressed hard against the far fence, every one of them facing the same direction, toward the center of the field. At first, I saw nothing. Then, I noticed the movement near the irrigation ditch, crawling. Not on hands and knees, but on all fours. Too fast, too smooth. I raised the rifle, didn't fire, just aimed. That was when it stopped crawling and stood. Slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae. Like joints rearranging themselves into place. It rose taller than any man I've ever seen. Lean, but wrong. Limbs were too long. Shoulders hunched like it wasn't used to balancing upright. It wavered like it was remembering how to stand. Then it became calling. Not one voice this time. Every voice. My own, my mother's, my father's, neighbors I hadn't had in years. Names, commands, questions, laughter. All layered together like a record spinning at the wrong speed. Each phrase overlapping, colliding, coming from one mouth that didn't move. The cattle snapped and charged the opposite direction, breaking through the fence in their panic. They didn't even try to avoid me. They thundered past like I was nothing. Nothing but another tree in their path. I stayed frozen on the porch. The thing stood there in the field, head tilted, watching me watch it. Then, in one clean motion, it smiled. Wide, human, friendly. And then, it took one step toward my house. I didn't think. I yelled. Stop! Not a plea, an order. Firm. Absolute. And it stopped. Not paused. Stopped. Mid-stride. 1 foot hovering above the frost. It stayed that way for a full 30 seconds, frozen like someone had pressed pause on reality. Then, without turning, it ran straight into the dark. No sound, no footprints, gone. That night, I learned one more thing. It wasn't just testing entry. It was testing authority. The next morning, I drove into town. Didn't sleep, didn't bother with breakfast, just got in the truck and went. Not for groceries, nor for coffee. I went to talk. I went to see an older Micmac man named Lawrence, the same one I mentioned earlier, who used to help with the harvest when I was a boy. He lives near the woods, doesn't farm anymore, but still hunts and traps. He answered the door before I even knocked. You saw it, he said. Not a question. I asked him what it was. He took his time answering, looking past me like he was checking the tree line. Finally, he said, There's different kinds. Not ghosts, not animals. Just walkers. Things that copy, things that keep old shapes alive. They don't like being without form. Can you kill it? I asked. He almost laughed, not out of humor, but out of pity. You can't kill wind. You can't drown fog. You can disrespect it, and that makes it angry. Don't anger it. So what do I do? He fixed me a hard stare. Keep your name to yourself. Don't let it speak as you. If it wears you long enough, it becomes you. I didn't like that answer. As I was leaving, I asked one last question. Why now? Why my farm? He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, Maybe you're just the first one willing to notice. That night I stayed on the porch again. Windows locked. Dug close, rifle across my lap. I had a plan. Less about attack, more about establishing boundaries. Around midnight, the first sound came. A soft shuffle, like someone walking barefoot across the frost-hardened dirt. Then, a whisper. Not my voice this time. Not anyone I knew. Just a low murmur that rolled like wind across the rows. I stayed still. Then I heard it call. I didn't move. I didn't answer. Not a word. The dog growled softly. The shuffle stopped. Silence. Then, moving at the edge of the field, just beyond the irrigation ditch, I could make out a figure. Lean, tall, just standing, waiting, observing. Head tilting slightly, like it was studying me as close as I was studying it. It tilted its head again, then mimicked the voice of my father. Are you done for today? Calm, casual, familiar. I didn't respond. I just raised a hand flat, palm outward. A simple gesture. No words, no shouting. Like I was marking a line in the dirt. For a long moment it paused. The wind whispered through the empty rows. Then, slowly, deliberately, it stepped back. Away from me, not towards me. And then, without a sound, it disappeared into the night. No disturbance, just empty rows and the faint glint of moonlight on frost. I stayed there until the first gray of dawn, listening. The fields were silent, the animals had settled. Even the dog relaxed. I didn't feel relief. I felt understanding. Boundaries were respected. The entity had vanished. It had simply acknowledged the limits I set. It had tested, yes, but it also knew I would not answer. I didn't call anyone. I didn't report it to the authorities. No one would believe me, but I recorded it here in writing. So anyone reading this might know the truth. There's something in these fields. Something old, patient, learning, watching. But it's not indiscriminate. It does have rules. It responds to boundaries. It's not evil. It is cautious, deliberate, and aware. And as of now, it hasn't crossed a line it can't reverse. It doesn't take, it doesn't kill, it doesn't need to. But it observes, and it waits. I know it will come again. I know it will test me again. But now I'm ready. Not for violence, not for combat. For silence, awareness, and caution. For respecting the rules it seems to live by, even if I've never fully understood them. And this is why I'm writing. So if anyone else notices the voices, the shapes, the mimicry, don't answer. Don't chase. Don't invite it inside. Keep your distance. Mark your boundaries, and above all, do not make it part of you. Because that is the line it will test first. I'm writing this report because I want it on the record, not because I want sympathy. This is a warning for whoever might lease, buy, or wander this property after me. You need to know what's here, because it's not like anything you've been taught to deal with. It's not a coyote. It's not a prankster. It's not a skinwalker in the Hollywood sense either. It's something older. Maybe just stranger. A walker of skins, a collector of voices, a test of boundaries. It doesn't smash doors or break fences like an animal. It doesn't even try to harm you at first. It watches. It mimics. And the first time you hear it, you'll think it's someone you know, a neighbor calling, your father's voice, a friend. It will try to get you to respond, to step out of your house, to answer its call, to acknowledge it, but don't. Don't speak your name. Don't answer its questions. Don't offer it anything but silence and space. It doesn't like defiance, but it respects a line if you draw it firmly. If you must confront it, do so the way I did. No words, no pleading, no anger. Just mark your boundary with a raised hand, a door shut, a light turned on. Let it see that you recognize it, but will not invite it. If you're reading this now, you can't say you weren't warned. The fields of this farm hold more than soil and roots. Something walks them at night, wearing voices like borrowed coats. If you want to call me superstitious, go ahead. But when the first frost comes and you hear your own name being called from the far end of the field, remember this report. Remember my words. Stay inside. Stay silent. And above all, don't let it know who you are. End of report.
This report submitted by the Fogwood Files, another account pulled from the fog and preserved in the records. If you'd like the next story to find its way to you, be sure to like and subscribe so you'll be here when the next fire is lit. Until then, stay close to the firelight, because in the woods, you're never truly alone, and something is always waiting just beyond the glow.